Oh, it's time for Fridays with Jarod on Bring It In, Troops, little Zoom from quarantine show. We definitely just didn't have the producer screaming like as if stabbed. That definitely didn't just happen.
I was like, uh-oh.
We're going to see if David Thorpe can join the show. He's been having some Florida. We're going to blame it on Florida's.
Always in Florida. Judy, hey. It's fine. It's fine. Nothing's happening here.
Hey, perfectly normal day on the show. Well, happy All-Star Weekend, everybody. Let's kick it off with our 9x90. This is where we each take 3 turns with 90 seconds of brilliance, starting with Jarod Hector.
So we always rag on Inside the NBA for a variety of reasons, but what they are very good at is comedy and making us laugh. And here we go. We're going to watch something from All-Star Selection last night.
Slander. There's no slander to the Utah Jazz, but you guys got to understand. Just like in video games growing up, we never played with Utah. Even as great as Karl Malone and John Stockton were, we would have never picked those guys in video games. Never.
The video game. Hold on, I got.
So we know.
We got to leave it right there. We got to take it. No, you can say something. I got to say one thing. LeBron says, I really need some size, and he got 7'5" Rudy Gobert, right? And he goes with 6'2" Sabonis. Are you kidding me? I was like, I need some size. Rudy Gobert is 7'5", he takes a 6'2" guy. Nobody plays video games. I just knew he was going to go back.
That's what makes that show so wonderful, right? It's Ernie being like, we got to go to break. Chuck being like, no, I got to get this point in. And you're like 7'5", which of course he's not 7'5". Colin Sabonis 6'2", which of course that is what makes the show what it is. Hilarious. Everybody laughing because it's funny. So anyway, we always bag on them. So shouts to Inside the NBA for doing what they're extremely good at, which is that.
So true.
Last night, CNN interviewed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who wore a really cool shirt that we can talk about it some other time maybe, but he was talking about the vaccine and trying to get Black Americans to take it, but they also evolved into a conversation about voting rights. And as I'm watching it, I'm just thinking, this man he was the best player probably ever in college basketball in the 1960s, right? He was a high school student and a college student during the civil rights movement and the protests and the violence and everything. Here he is in 2021 trying to fight for mostly Black Americans to be able to vote without much of a problem from their government. It's incredible. It's an incredible story. His whole journey is quite amazing. But last night I was really taken with the value he's brought to those of us that loved him because he was a great Lakers basketball player. It has been far outdone by what he's done as a human being. And there are people out there, I won't mention names, who always kind of made fun of him for different stupid reasons. I think he's an absolute hero. And this guy doesn't have to do what he's doing. He can just ride off in the sunset, so to speak, with his fame and whatever fortune he has left with some bad things that happened to him. And yet here he is working and writing and making us all smarter. So hats tip to Kareem, the greatest ever was in many respects.
Mm-hmm. David's Wi-Fi hanging in there. It's an endurance sport for David's Wi-Fi and for Kareem. So listen, Kareem's a little sharp-edged, right? And I feel like so are we here at TrueHoop a little bit, right? The truth is they sometimes called the bitter truth. So it might seem like we don't like basketball that much, but I went to bed last night having retweeted Danny Orion had written this beautiful thing about why he loved basketball, and I just retweeted, why do you love basketball? And then woke up to, now it's been hundreds and hundreds of responses, but if you, there's just so many different people have given so many different reasons as to why they love basketball. And at some point, this genius guy wrote, like, basically the reason basketball is great is because Henry can send out this one question and get 1,000 responses that are all correct. The game means so much to so many for different reasons. Kids who were feeling really lonely or bullied, basketball was their thing. Kids who had a hard time relating to their dad, basketball was their thing, and on and on and on. Or just, honestly, one of the ones that got me, and it's All-Star Weekend, and we just trashed All-Star Weekend on this show because it's pretty stupid. But I gotta be honest, the slow-mo Vince Carter dunk footage was, when I was woking this morning, I'm like, that one is wow for me. Like, and all the Iverson stuff. There's some stuff that's just, pure, nothing to do with winning, just pure poetry. Just like, look at this, and some of that's from All-Star Weekend. So Oh, there, Dr. J. Look at that. There you go. That's why I love basketball. All of it.
All-Star Weekend is good if you know what to use it for, and I'll leave it at that.
We'll come back.
So if you've been paying attention, there's some excitement going on in the sneaker community as it relates to Nike. So Ann Hebert, VP, that was in charge of the sneakers app and their direct-to-consumer, a lot of their retail work, stepped down recently after this article came out in which her son, West Coast Joe, was interviewed by Bloomberg Business Week and talked about essentially how he became a reseller, right? So he would use bots and other sort of sophisticated tools, buy up literally hundreds of thousands of pairs of the exclusive elite shoes that people want and sell them on the resale market for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6x what the price is. And this is interesting for so many reasons. Part of it is the echo chamber, right? And I talked about this to a couple of people this week. We love the NBA here. And when we talk about basketball, we drill down into like specifics and the nitty gritty. The average person who watches basketball has no idea what we're talking about when it comes to the NBA 95% of the time. Much like as it relates to sneakers, the average person who buys footwear does not know a sneaker resale market exists, right? So all this, browbeating and excitement going on is existing within a small subset of the larger retail world. So the idea is Nike going to do anything? No, probably not, because it's just a little blip on the radar. I just thought it was interesting. But anyway, shout out to the people in the resale community like Adina Jones and Chad Jones, shout out to marketing.com, who are community first, then resellers.
I'm in that majority of have no idea what you just said. Although I do love Adina and Chad. Last night, the Memphis Grizzlies lost a heartbreaking last-second game to Milwaukee, but Ja Morant was looking to score on Giannis, and we're watching one video where just a sick, quick right foot, left hand little floater off the board, kind of more of a runner against Giannis, and that wasn't even his best play. He did it again where it looked like they were to win the game, just seconds to go. Then Drew Holiday came down and made a jumper to win. But I just started thinking this Ja Morant guy is the real deal. He's Damian Lillard in the newest form. He's different than Damian, but impact, I think he's the same. He can't guard right now. He's a small, young guy. I would assume he's going to get better at defense, but Damian's not a great defender. And we know what he's done in Portland. And then I started thinking about, well, who's going to be his competition as he matures 25, 26, and some of these older guys age out? I realize it's Luka. And so right away, I just started thinking about there's going to be some epic playoff battles between those two guys because they are just phenomenal talents. And I love everything about Ja, everything about him, not just his game, his persona. And then he was destroyed that they lost, destroyed. And I'm so glad that it means that much to him. That is a big part. That competitive fire is so key. Keep your eye on that dude. Buy his digital images or whatever those things are.
Oh,
that guy's going to be worth a lot.
Oh,
don't worry, Top Shot. We're going to circle back to Ja later on.
Yeah, Top Shot situation. Okay, so again, All-Star game, totally stupid, right? However, I found myself wrapped up in this. Okay, let's look at the Team LeBron here. LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, if you don't mind keeping going. Okay, Jaylen Brown, Paul George, Rudy Gobert, Damian Lillard, Domantas Sabonis, Ben Simmons, Chris Paul, Anthony Davis. I think it's the best team of any kind ever assembled in basketball. Like, I know everyone wants to fight, blah, 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 but like, I mean, my position that has 2 of the top 5 players of all time, like, plus Jokic. To me, I'm like, I think this team would win a game against every other basketball team that has ever been played anywhere ever. I think this is the best. It's like, okay, they're not going to play terribly this weekend because that's how All-Star games go. They won't play hard the whole time, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, like, we have to realize we're seeing peak basketball right here. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's just ridiculous how talented that team is. Also, Judy, maybe just for fun, we're going to shoehorn in here the highlight I was talking about earlier. I think it's there, which is, yeah, there it is. There's a little, there we go. This is what I'm talking about.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, come on. We're watching Vince Carter in slow-mo doing in 360. This is the year 2000. My first All-Star game. I was sitting in, like, I don't know, the 30th row. I thought this was maybe normal. But it's not normal. Anyway, I'm done. There you go.
So Kevin Garnett was trending on social media last night or yesterday into today, and I was wondering why. And he posted something about how he is, no longer considered part of the group that's going to potentially buy the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then Glenn Taylor, Timberwolves owner, said that Kevin Garnett was never part of any group. I never saw his name on any documentation that involved looking at financials to buy this team. Everyone knows, of course, Kevin Garnett, even though he won his championship with the Boston Celtics, arguably the best part of his career, well, not even arguably, the best part of his career in terms of, stats, impact, that wise, was with Minnesota early on, right? Those first 10, 12 years, however long it was. But he and that owner, Glenn Taylor, have at best, fraught relationship. At worst, something that seems way, way deeper. And I know that various writers around that cover the team and know KG have cryptically made hints to this and talked about it. I don't know what's going on there. What is interesting, though, is that the Timberwolves have been on the trading block for quite a bit of time now. And as Henry knows, the NBA, first of all, there's only a small pool of people that can actually buy their way into this league just because of the optics, because of the money. Who's that going to be? I mean, we have a pretty good guess, Henry, that it's probably going to be not the cleanest money in the world that comes in and takes over the Minnesota Timberwolves, which, by the way, Glenn Taylor may be the worst owner of the NBA. It's definitely the bottom third. Let's put it that way.
Judy, before you play this video, just to set it up, when Danny Urian asked about why I love basketball, I've been mentoring Danny for 8 years or so now. When his son was born 4 months early, he called me from the hospital. Obviously, I was talking to him a lot before that. We speak all the time. Basketball has connected us. Wednesday night was Florida State's senior night. And on this clip, you're going to see a graduate student walk on, make a three. And this young man celebrating as a McDonald's All-American, who was also, they're both captains. Look at that joy. Just watch. He's cheering for his walk-on teammate, who's going to be apparently very good meteorologist, and watch him hug him. That is what basketball means to me. I did not, there's 200 pictures that they took of my son, because he's right there in some of those teams. And I didn't cry, I just smiled. This video made me cry. Seeing it, I didn't see this before. I didn't realize MJ react this way. During the game, I'm busy watching my son react in the game. That was the last play of the game. But yeah, watching this morning, I cried pretty hard. I've just witnessed it so many times. With basketball, how it brings, it's a bridge. It's not just a bridge between my son and I now, which is something I greatly value. It's been a bridge for almost a century connecting people. It can be that. That's why I love basketball. And I love Danny. He's an amazing guy.
Lots of love in that one. We just published a story from Tom Haberstroh this morning about NBA trade deadline, and there's a bunch of interesting stuff in there. We can talk about all that. But the one little thing that struck me as interesting is the NBA actually made a change. The competition committee recommended a change and the owners approved it, and which is something they've been so unbelievably timid to do. But the big change, of course, is the play-in tournament. And according to Tom's reporting, it's having a giant effect, mostly in that we're approaching the midway point of the season and only 3 teams are done competing this year. Ordinarily, it would be 10, which is why you end up with a lot of terrible Kings Grizzlies games in March, right? But now we're gonna it's just who is it? It's the Cavs, Pistons, and T-Wolves are the 3 teams that GM say are ready to trade away talented players. This was one little tweak, this one little play-in tournament. But now, if you look at the standings here, so it used to be you'd go down to, I don't know, team 2022 before that you thought they'd make the playoffs, right? But now we go all the way down. Look at it, all the way down here at the bottom. The Rockets are clinging to their talent, right? Because they think they got a shot, right? And they're 11 and 23. So I feel like this is look what we can do. Little rule changes can make big differences, and this is going to pay off in the second half big time. I'm excited about it. So good job doing a little innovating. Here's to more of that.
I mean, the getting rid of illegal defense helped literally create the 3-point shooting that we have now.
It took 15 years, but yeah, it totally did.
Yeah, well, because coaches are so damn stubborn.
Yeah.
But that was the way to get the spacing you needed. Otherwise, they'd flood ball side and recover out to the 18-foot shooter. Wasn't with these athletes and this length, it's not hard to do that, but getting out to 26 feet, much harder.
Yeah, I don't want to get all down. I think they might actually meet this. Usually they meet at All-Star Weekend, the competition committee, but I can tell you from like firsthand, from people who were on it for a long time, that the committee doesn't exist to try to think how to make the game better. Like, it exists for the people on the committee to make their team's odds of winning higher, right? It's like, or they have some other agenda item. But the point is it's just a bad setup. Like, somebody needs to be in charge of making the game good for fans, right? And I know there's nobody doing that. Like, it's just like, this team's interests versus that interest, the league's interest. But yeah, I think if you get into just straight on how to make it good for fans, there's a lot we could do. And the little changes they've made, the rules changes David talking about, this thing, big differences.
Well, on that subject, I put it in there. I think it's somewhere in there, Judy. I didn't go back and name it because I was dealing with internet problems. But Henry, I remember you talking about the change regarding video review. Your quote was, "We can't have everyone watching a game knowing what really happened in terms of foul, no foul, except for the three guys in charge of making the referees." And so now we have video review. So someone, it might have been the G Wis one, Judy. Someone tweeted about, here we are watching games, and we spend the last few minutes just watching three dudes looking at a monitor, and it's true. And so I'm asking, and Jarod, this is you're probably, I just watch the game different than you guys do. What do you guys think at the end of the game when it goes to review? Is there drama, like would be if you went to saw a movie or a TV show, because you don't really know how it's going to end? Or is it you just want action and don't really care if the call is right? I generally don't have an opinion on it. I'm curious.
Well, for me, I look at it through a couple lenses. One, how often does a referee want to say that he's wrong or she's wrong when they make a call, right? Like, that's the first thing I think of. Like, are they like, confident enough to be like, no, that was my bad. I definitely messed that up there. And how often does that happen, right? Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, generally speaking, right, and Henry, you probably know the numbers better than on this. Like
7, the number is 7, Jarod.
You're not going to lose a game because of one call. Like, that's not the reason why you lost. Like, there are a million other sequences that happen in the game that caused you to be in the position that you're in, that have nothing to do with block charge or whatever, if it was a foul or not, or whatever that situation is. So I do err on the side of I would like them to get it right, but if we got to spend like 95 minutes, come on, like let's get back to the game.
There's like, don't get me started. This is a topic where I'm like, this is so stupid. Okay, to me, your two options, David, are get a lot of calls wrong that people at home know are wrong, or have the whole game stop while these guys wear headphones and do.
No, I'm open to anything.
Right, no, but let me. From the beginning, there was a third option, and everybody involved knew it, but fans just weren't ready for it, which is they have the replay center. I've been there. It's not so far from here in New Jersey. Yeah. They have giant teams of people, and there's like NBA arenas have so many more cameras than you think they have. And so I'm telling you, the guy takes the three and his toe is or is not on the line in the replay center. They know within a quarter of a second. Like, they have it from this angle, zoom in, boom, boom, done. So are we willing to have them say into the referee's ear, it's good, and then just trust it? Or does it seem too big brotherish? Like, that's ready. The only problem is, are we ready? Right? So to me, I think let's just do that. And then if anyone wants to argue it, you just go watch the video. The coach does, right? Like, but what we're doing right now is we're keeping up this myth, right? So this is the time, this is like telemedicine, right? This is like the remote surgeon will do the surgery on you. Are we ready for that? Like, emotionally is where our hang up is, right? So to me, like, I don't know if we're ready for it, but in fact, that's where the calls are coming from. We're just keeping up this charade that it's these three guys in front of you, because we're used to like, oh, your local doctor, and so like this, they're already getting the call from here, right? Like they're not. Zach Zarba isn't actually. He has one little shitty TV back in the where his boss is on the phone. Like, where his boss is watching it on 15 enormous TVs, they're telling him what the call is. Like, do we just need to go through the theater of having it look like it's our guy on the court? Like,
you see it, Henry, because last night a couple of times when the refs were going for replay, the replay screen wasn't even working, and
I know.
talking to somebody. So I'm like, well, obviously someone's telling you what's happening because this big play isn't even on the screen you're looking at. So
it seems to me, just based on what you guys just said, that we should be able to say, if Secaucus says X or Y, then it's X or Y. And if they can't figure it out in 10 seconds, no change. We're not going to watch it 25 times. You got 5 seconds, pick the number, and let's, because sometimes it is pretty close. I mean, I've watched, a few games, and I have big TVs in my house, and I'm not always so sure, and they show different angles. So give it some time, and if they can't definitively change it, then don't change it. But if they can do it real quick, let's do it real quick. It seems like a fair thing.
They told me Steve Helmuth is like the NBA VP. He's a great guy. He's in charge of this tech stuff, and he told me when they gave me the little tour that like the internet provider they have in that room at the center said this was like the biggest internet connection they'd ever made. Like all this HD video in, all this HD video out. Like this is. I mean, it's probably changed 100 times over since then. But like the point is, I think that if they make the call in real time between the TV broadcast and the in-arena giant, beautiful display boards they have in every single arena now, I think they can show us like the zoom in on the toe, like within your 10 seconds, David. Like just let the ref call it. Boom, there's the thing, and then we overturned it or not, and like boom, off we go. Like, why don't we do that?
But that's an easier call though than goaltending, and there's a few things that are harder to call than that about sometimes. Which, Rod, what are some plays that you think are hard? Like towing the line is easy.
Yeah, towing the line because you can stop it. The block charge, like that, and
That's
that
harder.
That's a whole nother thing that we can
Yeah.
spend.
It is harder, but I'm just telling you, like, nevertheless, it comes down to 2 seconds of video that they have in the replay center, and when you're in the replay center, it just doesn't take that long. Like they're like, oh, yep, he was in position. Like, and then you're kind of, everything's 2 seconds of video. Like, and once you present it, like, you just live with it.
Henry, I'll say this.
I'm fine with that.
I'm ready for it. I don't know if, because and this goes back to my thing that I mentioned in 9x90. Like, I think us, like we in our echo chamber of deep NBA nerddom and people who love the NBA, we'd be fine with it. But the NBA doesn't do things for what we want. They do what the casual fan wants. And I don't know that they are ready for it. That's the issue. It's those people, not us. Like,
but I think they're the problem the other way, right? Like, this is why it's such terrible TV. This is why people switch to the other channels. Right? Like it's because like, what am I like try to get your mom to watch crunch time of an NBA playoff game? Like, she doesn't have the free time. Like, it takes too long. She is too busy, right? Like it's just so fucking bad as a broadcast. like I just think it's exactly with them in mind that it's like, oh, that's neato. They like, they put the line on the field in football to make it easier for you. Like, just give us that level of technology, right? Just make it so we can understand what happened here.
I'm with it. I think they should do it. But, the most dangerous phrase in the English language, but that's how we've always done it. Right. So, like, that's probably why they're not going to do it.
I'm nominating you, Henry. You need to start You need to start a movement. Seriously, I'm not even kidding. I'm kind of kidding, but not really. You need to start a movement. Like, seriously. Jarod and I will co-sign.
Yeah, I'm in.
If you can do it that fast, I don't care if it's 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, just not 3 minutes.
I know.
Right? Just if you can't figure it out in a quick amount of time, just stick with the call on the recording. So be it.
Honestly, did anybody happen to watch the end of Blazers Kings?
No.
It was late, but here's what happened there. This was like so stupid. So I hope I get this right. Blazers are up. Kings try to intentionally miss a free throw and maybe miss the rim entirely. It's hard to tell. It hit like something under the rim, and it's like 2 seconds left maybe, and Enes Kanter cleanly secures the rebound, and that's game over now. Except they blow a whistle for a very long delay of like, either it's going to be, I think the options are it's Blazer ball because they had the ball, or it's Blazer ball because my guy missed the rim entirely, right? Like, it's Blazer ball. And you can see but literally the delay was so long that like, and now the game's basically over, that like the two teams which had just been in a 2-point game fighting each other are like literally all the benches and coaches are just like, oh, what are you guys doing later? Like, oh, we're just like chatting. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, what Henry said about, well, both of you guys have talked about the fan experience. So we should be aware of that. Like playing this game in a vacuum doesn't solve any problems.
Well, I'll quote a longtime NBA GM who's like, we do this thing where we're like, oh, it's so complicated to know, like, are the teams most important? Are the players most important? Are the refs most important? Are the fans most important? And he's like, okay, that's a fun little debate. But back in reality, as a business, only the fans matter.
Right.
Like, there's no other constituency to listen to if this is a business. And like, and this is where I'm telling you, like, well, Adam Silver's going to take questions tomorrow. Hasn't all year, right? Barely did last year. Like, that's a bet that fuck you fans. Like, I don't need to tell you anything about anything. None of it is your business. We'll do whatever the hell we want and you'll just be here anyway, right? Same thing with the video delay. They're like, this is the worst. We're going to give you the worst broadcast and just like, it's good for some other stuff, right? It's good for, I don't even know what it's good for, but like there's other constituencies, right? Not the fans. And I'm like, how much of that do they get to get away with? Like, I feel like make it better, make it better.
We're behind the curve here, you know, like we talk about it all the time. The age, if you want to attract and keep your sport relevant, you have to be courting the next generation of fans. And I have to imagine with everything we talk about vis-a-vis Top Shot and how children now live their lives. If I was 8 or 9 growing up in the world now, not back in late 70s, early 80s when I was born, I would not want to watch NBA. I'm like, what is this thing you're doing here? Like, what? This sucks. Like, I don't want to do this, right? But in the NBA, I don't know, man. We're still on a different model, and
I think it might be speed gambling. I honestly think that the NBA's strategy now is not like a billion fans around the globe who each drive like a little teaspoon of revenue with like a pre-roll ad, right? I think the model now is we're going to have a few 100,000 fans and they're each going to give us like thousands of dollars, right? I think that might just be it. Like I watch, I mean, they used to be like, you used to not be able to use the word gambling in like the official NBA magazine, right? Now I watched on the NBA app. I wanted to watch some highlight and there's a 60-second pre-roll, like, go get your credit card, kids. It's time to start gambling ad. And I'm like, wow.
And it's interesting, Henry, that you're right. But I wonder, because I do an NBA picks and prop show, you got to be a serious, like, and I mean this with all love, degenerate to gamble NBA. It's just because it's a very different gambling experience than, say, the NFL or whatever, just because of the nature of the game. It's interesting. Like, it's really interesting. That's the bet. I'm not saying it's a bad bet. I'm like, I'd love to see numbers. How many people gamble on NBA basketball versus, I mean, I know it's gonna be Thorpe, NFL football, right? Like, and regularly, and what do those revenue numbers look like?
Well, it might not work for the league, but ask yourself, how many NBA billionaires have gambling holdings?
All of them, probably.
Yeah. Devin has a good point. Why gamble at all?
I agree. Just throw it, lighten your money on fire. Do that, actually. It's actually a better experience.
Other than on John Morant Top Shots. That's a good
I'm not suggesting I understand Top Shots. I understand John Morant's future. I understand that. Yeah, that dude has got it.
Yeah.
If there's value to that in Top Shots, then you should buy it.
Before we transition to a more serious topic, Henry, I just want to say about All-Star Weekend, it is enjoyable if you use it for what it is. If you use it for networking, connecting with people, and of course, going to the swagged out parties, All-Star Weekend is fun. If you're trying to like do basketball things, you can do that some other time. Not good for actual, real, meaningful basketball. No.
It's a weird thing, man.
If you're hoping to bring it up on Monday, then you want to get a different guest, because a different host. I will not be watching a single second of this. I don't even know the schedule. No idea. I know what it normally is, but there won't be. Yeah, I'm taking my wife this weekend. I'm not watching any basketball at all.
No, it's a funny, like, I don't know. I've probably been to 2 or 3 All-Star games and found the whole thing kind of dizzying and confusing, and I wasn't sure, like, is this a privilege to get to go to this thing, or is this a burden, right? It was kind of like, it was like legit hard to tell. And then Kevin Arnovitz started working at ESPN, and he was new and wide-eyed and excited about stuff. And I was like, oh, why don't you take my place at All-Star Game? And I thought maybe this would be a good tradition. I would have Valentine's Day with my wife for once and, take a break, and Kevin would get to meet a million people, right? And then he comes back, I remember the Monday, he was like, just for the record, I am never fucking going back to that thing again.
That is so not Kevin Arnovitz's scene. I didn't even know that story, but I knew where it was headed.
Henry, it's just a different, first of all, the amount of media there is insane. And it's like the Super Bowl where they open it up to any possible media that exists. So you have a bunch of like international, whatever, people who are literally there just for the celebrity aspect of it. And it has nothing to do with basketball. It is, you have the craziest questions asked in the scrums. Like, again, for like serious work on the journal, nope, not for that. That is not what you go to All-Star for. Unless I'm definitely going to get to talk to so-and-so like in their hotel room one-on-one, fine. But like all the other stuff, no. You go for parties and free stuff. That's it.
This is why All-Star Weekend was very stressful for me. Was most times we had sponsored TrueHoop TV segments. So somebody's paid us already, and we need to deliver like our one-on-one sit down with an all-star, or actually we'd have at least one of those promised per day. So talk to Jade Hoy. Here's what happens with that is you go into the weekend with, assiduously arranged things. And then you just take until you're on the plane, you're like, okay, if we can get this thing and hustle over there and blah, blah, then we're going to not be in big trouble, right? And then you take that schedule and you just light it on fire. Everybody's hungover and everybody's running 4 hours late and everything got canceled. And next thing you know, you're like in the back of some freaking taxi, like begging some junior PR person from Adidas if you can like sneak into this suite where James Harden's doing a thing in the basement and like whatever. Like it's so stressful.
or freezing your ass off in the back of an armory in Chicago in -5-degree weather, waiting for the president. Can you guys come in? We got to have this interview done now. And that's. And
then everybody thinks you're just having this glamorous lifestyle, and you're like, I would just like a cup of coffee. Is there a bathroom in Las Vegas anywhere?
I didn't realize they drafted last night. Or whenever they did. But of course, Rudy Gobert was drafted last. No one plays defense in that game, as far as I know, and that's all he does. Donovan Mitchell going last is kind of weird. That dude is hard to guard.
Everyone hates Utah, coach. They just hate Utah.
But that seems there's something weird. Like they don't hate Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, who are now separated from their team. I felt like there was like a little more something going on there. Like
it's weird. Someone talked about this. Like, first of all, LeBron's funny thing about we were kids, we were big Utah on the video games. And I'm like, if you played 2K or NBA Live when you're young, I never played with Utah ever once. And I played with every team for whatever reason. And, people have conspiracies that goes back to people not liking Karl Malone and like all these and it's like years of like contention. And then it's what we talked about, right? Was it a couple weeks ago on one of our shows, the incident that Millsap's brother said happened with the Utah GM. It's like, again, not related, but people just associate Utah with, nope, don't like that place. And it's like a weird mechanism that fires off in your brain. You hear Utah and the X comes out. No. Weird.
That's okay. We're talking about racism, right? Like, so Donovan Mitchell would need to be punished for that?
Listen, I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying this is what happens. Utah, nope, forget those dudes.
I also was wondering, like, Quinn Snyder's the coach of LeBron's team. Like, part of me was like, is that part of it? Is there like I don't understand that, but like
that's not stupid at all.
Yeah. There's something going on with that.
Yeah, that's not stupid at all, actually. Good thinking. I forgot Quinn. Yeah, Quinn and Don. They just played against each other Wednesday night. Yeah.
If Donovan Mitchell were on LeBron's team, Donovan Mitchell would probably get a lot of shine. I don't know if that's part of it, but like that's
interesting.
Struck me too. But
I'm just saying that dude can get cooking.
Well,
that was an acid grind.
It is funny, right? Like when you think about the whole idea, and I get this is for the fans when they have the two leading vote getters pick the teams, right? And we've seen it every year in the past, right? Since they've done this. LeBron has been the captain, leading vote getter. His team's always won. But there's this weird like political thing, right? That Giannis was kind of stuck in the last couple of years. Every time he went, like he would always pick his teammate Chris Middleton, and like you would hear like the inside guys laugh and they'd be like, why? I mean, I get it. He's your teammate, but this guy's better than him. Like, why aren't you picking these dudes? Same thing happened last night, right? Like Durant had to pick Kyrie and James Harden. You can't not pick those dudes. And even if it mattered, I think Kevin would pick Kyrie and James anyway, regardless, just because I think those three like operate on like a similar wavelength. But it's always interesting when you
are the games close anymore?
So last year's was really interesting.
Oh, they did the
they didn't give a thing. So that, I mean, those guys were like, I mean, Kyle Lowry's out here taking charges, like they were playing hard, and you had to get to a number. So the fourth quarter took forever. Those dudes were exhausted because they were actually guarding each other, not letting them get to the rim. So it was interesting. It was really interesting.
Well, you don't have like, again, LeBron's not the best at like, it's just an exhibition. You know what I mean? Like LeBron's team is kind of team OCD to me, right? I was like, oh, these are like these are the dogged fighters, right? Like these are the people who are going to do the worst at mailing it in. So I think the team LeBron thing might actually make the competitive fires of the event more, right? Because I don't think he is cool with the idea that we're just gonna have a dunk show.
Well, there's at least two guys on the team that'll be pissed at him, so you got that going for him.
Yeah.
The Jazz guys. I'll tell you a funny story. When I first was helping Udonis as an undrafted rookie, I made a stupid promise that, hey, if you make the rookie All-Star game, at this point he was on a $75,000 guarantee. That was it. I'm like, if you make the rookie All-Star game, my wife and I will go cheer you on in the game. And I didn't look at it was in LA. And it's in LA, so we're gonna fly to LA because he made the team. And I got him all fired up the night before about competing. Because they practiced during the day. You got to be competitive, and I'm doing all these coaching things, right? So the game starts, and I realized very quickly, oh my God, like,
You were wrong.
Fish out of water. That because he doesn't have the kind of game those guys have. What he brings does not matter in a non-competitive game. And I swear to you, after the game, we had got a limo for him. It was his birthday or something. We got a limo for afterwards. D Wade was in the limo with us because his agent forgot to get him. So he was stuck with nowhere to go. And my wife was like, is that the guy that played the game? I'm like, yeah. So first thing Udonis said to me is like, Coach, I'm so sorry. He's like, I wanted to be competitive, but LeBron looked at me funny the first time. Like, I'm just going to take this one easy. I did not go the next dream as a sophomore. That's the worst game. You were talking about a competitive fourth quarter. In the rookie games that I remember, nothing is competitive.
Yes, the Rising Stars Challenge is what it's
called.
Yes, it is an alley-oop dunk layup. That's all they do.
Awful.
It's fun. A fun thing I like to do is to test Devin, just looking stuff up for us. But Devin, if you don't mind, or anybody if they can, Eric Gordon. I happen to be at the Google. The Google is what you use. Eric Gordon played in the rookie game, and for some reason it made an impression. He killed it. Like he played as well as you can play in that game. It was unbelievable. And then I forget, somebody else won the MVP of the game, who was just like the hometown hero. This is what I'd love to know, is who won the MVP of that game. But and I went over to, and like it was like nobody noticed Eric Gordon had just played like just the most unbelievable basketball at both ends. And like I went over to him after. There's no media. Nobody needs to talk to Eric Gordon. I'm like Eric, is it like? Did you end up feeling kind of like, what do I have to do to win this award? And he was like, I have no idea.
Are they doing a slam dunk contest?
They are. Slam dunk is being done at halftime, which would be the longest halftime in the history of the world. Mm-hmm. And 3-point and skills is happening pregame.
On Sunday?
Yes, everything's happening on Sunday. There's nothing going on Saturday. Sunday's the thing, and so the guys fly in Saturday night via private. Whatever, Sunday is a day, fly back out after the game. Like that's it. That's their goal, to keep parties from happening. Except of course, if you saw any of the promotional materials about all the clubs in Atlanta, there's lots of parties happening down there. So I don't know.
Wait, is Georgia fully reopened?
I mean, Atlanta never closed, so I don't know. Like,
Georgia?
That makes it easier if you never closed, I guess. That's it.
Yeah, they're just doing their thing.
David just said the word Georgia and then froze.
That's it.
There he goes. He's back. Welcome back. Jarod, when you talked about the Bloomberg article about the sneaker business, it struck me that I'm like, oh, this is exactly what an investor would want, right? Like, oh, you know what I mean. Talk me through that.
Indeed. Well, it's so interesting, right? So it's this idea of like making sneakers asset classes, right? Jordans, Yeezys, blah, blah, whatever. I talked to our good friend Matt Powell, who like has the data on this stuff, who was like, we had him on early during sneaker week. And I was just like, okay, walk me through this, because Nike doesn't directly benefit from the resale market, right? If someone buys a pair of exclusive Jordans and they themselves sell it on the resale market, Nike doesn't get all that 5, 6, 7x profit. That goes to whomever sold it on the resale market. But there is, as we know, because Matt told us, the Nike 10 June is the #1 selling shoe at Nike. There is something there whereby Nike releases a limited quantity of these exclusive collaboration shoes. The demand for them is so high from the sneaker culture, and it creates this. I mean, if you're on Twitter and social, you see it. I took another L on sneakers app today. It's just nonstop. That's what you see, and it still drives and generates interest. It's the same idea with this. If you're talking about the Mona Lisa, still like it brings the value up. But people still want to find that association with that brand, with Nike. Well, I can't get these fancy Christian Dior Nike collabs, but I can get this other product that's available, right? And they make those quantities in mass, right? That's what keeps the light on. They put out 1,000, 10,000 pairs of these really cool shoes that they already know most people aren't going to get, but it really generates the interest and the excitement, and that's what gets people keep coming back to Nike. And, again, the average consumer has no idea what those shoes are. Like they don't know there's a resale market. They know nothing. They go to the local Dick's Sporting Goods. Yeah, those Nikes look good. I'll get them. That's how this game works.
Well, and there's like if I told you I had a bot that could win every
sneaker raffle,
then I would be rigging the game. I'd be cheating, basically, right? But I would have no trouble finding investors for that.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Are these shoes ever worn?
What'd you say, Henry?
Are these shoes ever worn?
So it depends. Some people are dead stocks, so they just get them and they put them on ice, so to speak, and never wear them and just collect. Most people who are like really into it, they buy their shoes to wear them, right? Because they want to actually flex with them on.
But they want to wear them like when it's not raining, like
very specifically with the right outfit. Like, we don't want no problems out here.
And don't accidentally step on that foot. Like,
no. I mean, there might be a fight. There will be a fight if your new J's get stepped on. Oh no, we can't have that. But yeah, if you're an investor in bots, like, yeah, this is huge. Like everyone now is gonna try to figure out, because that article listed all the different bots that kid used. I bet the looks for those things on sites had to go up like crazy the minute that article came out, because people are like, I got to get that thing back. Like, Well,
and I would just, there's a little capitalism point here too, which is like, capitalism can be a lot of different things. And actually, there was a big, I texted around this, Elizabeth Warren kind of defended capitalism the other day. I thought that was very interesting. We don't have to go down that road right now, but to the extent that investor dollars are contributing to rigging the game, capitalism is a much more pernicious thing than if the dollar, I think the capitalism they taught us about in high school was the one where it's like, hey, like different people like Adina and Chad are going to try to make a good, honest marketplace where people can sell their sneakers, buy sneakers, make friends, etc. Right? If that's what we're actually trying to do, then investment dollars in that actually make the world more consumer friendly.
Right.
But if instead the person who's getting the dollars is the one who's like, we can make it so these dumb shits will never win another sneaker raffle. Like, well, now the world feels kind of harsh when people start storming the Capitol stuff, right? Like now it's like, I think we're feeling it. It's hard to put in words, but we're feeling a little bit that like this, like are all of our favorite products ripping us off? Like, is the kind of the feeling we have? Like maybe the vaccine, maybe the Facebook, maybe the Google, like, are ripping us off, in which case it feels a little scary. I think that's a little bit the times we live in, a little bit like intentional, like it's easier to invest in someone who has a monopoly, right? And
100%, because that's corner of the market, right? That's gonna get you all of the rate of return. It's something you said the other day, Henry, when we were talking. Capitalism in this way, ruthless capitalism, ruthless unregulated capitalism, right? Which is what we're talking about, leaves no meat on the bone.
All the meat is gone on the bone. Yeah.
Not only does it leave no meat on the bone, it takes all the marrow out from inside the bone as well. Like any possible thing that has any value to you in terms of nutrition, gone from that bone, right? Like nothing good is left. And that's what we, the consumers, are left with. The brittle part that if you eat would choke you choke and die, right? That's what we have. None of the good stuff. We got that shit. We got that shit.
Do you find it satisfying, Jarod? Do you find it delicious? That
Crackly bone.
I find it horrendous.
No. You got to be more willing to be vulnerable, Jarod.
Who wants to raise their hand to organize the next transition of the show?
What's up next? What do we have next?
We got stuff. Okay. Oh. Wait, I actually have one more little part of this. We have not talked on Bring It In about this insane Jeffrey Epstein NBA Apollo Global thing I'm writing in. That's fine with me. We'll find another time. It's just too much. But I'll just say this. I just way too late started listening to the Jody Avergon 30 for 30 podcast about Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi going to Russia to play
with that dude. Yeah.
Assassinated spy, Shabtai Kamenovich, right? Like, okay, I would just say, and he's like, was he a Mossad agent? Was he KGB? Was he like, all I'm telling you is that he really got like massacred in his, I think it was a Mercedes. Like, it really happened. And then we learned the story. I'll just say that before that point, for the decades of his career before that point, at the moment that Sue Bird and Anatoly went to play for him, he was introduced as businessman Shabtai Kamenovich. Like, meanwhile, if you sniffed around, and when Catherine Belton was on this show, she explained that he was actually like a crucial figure in a lot of the most dastardly things that happened around. What? Don't get me started. But all I'm saying is, you could have known when he was alive. You could have known before Sue Bird got on the plane. You could have known that there was a lot more to that guy's story. He's not the only one.
Well,
that's also true of some other people who are currently influential in the NBA, right? Like,
that podcast is so good because one of my favorite anecdotes is Diana and Sue like in their apartment together or wherever they were in Russia, and he calls and it's the Diana to Sue or Sue Diana. Oh, your boy's on the phone, and it's like, I don't know if like I would want that dude to be called my boy, right? Like, I mean, and to that, listen, you have to live within the confinements of what the world is, right? As much as possible. These women are extremely elite, talented basketball players.
The best, yeah.
WNBA only paying me $10. So I'm gonna go over here and make all this money. I'm not gonna really ask too many questions because I don't even want to know where this money comes from. Okay, I'm just gonna do what I'm told, get my money, and get the F out of here and go back to the States when I'm done. So I thought that's
my favorite thing. There's so much to like about that. I have not listened to the whole thing, but I've listened to the early part, and the early part, Diana's like, okay, like everything was first class at UConn, finest hotels, finest food, finest equipment. And in my mind, that's only gonna get better than WNBA. And we get there, and then she was like, $45,000. She's like, literally the guy who takes the floor apart and puts it back together makes more money than I do, right? Mm-hmm. And so then they have it. She's like, then she hates it. Like they play. She hates their first season together in Russia, and Diana's like, our coach's name was Anus. And she was like, I think it was actually Innis, like he's Latvian. And she was like, no, it was Anus.
What's the name of the podcast?
It's a 30 for 30. The spy who
I can find
me. The spy
30 for 30. Okay.
Hold on, I'll tell you. The spy who signed me.
Okay. And it's classic Diana, like, because I mean, I'm sure Henry, you've interviewed her before. Like you spend any time with her, she is the best. Like story is just lively. Like she'll tell you. Like this is like, let me tell you what actually happened. Like
I feel like it is. Good job, Judy. I feel like Sue Bird's whole persona is like, this is my friend Diana. Like Diana flies off the handle all the time, right? And Sue's like, it wasn't anus, right? Or there's like, remember Sue was talking about Diana losing it on the refs at one point, and you can see Sue's like, oh, I guess she's always doing that. Like it's, just to kind of mediate a little, But
who is better between the two?
Player?
Yeah.
Oh, DT for sure.
Wow.
Except for, I mean,
The Super's amazing.
Super just won another championship.
Wow.
He's Kyle Lowry. Super's Kyle Lowry.
Is Diana considered the best ever?
She's up there. She's up there for sure.
Is Cheryl Miller still there? Because I thought she was the best when I was watching.
You know, it's tougher now just because of the way that the women have so many more pro opportunities now than they did when Cheryl was playing. So like, and again, it's a silly thing. Like, how do you determine like who's the best based on what? Like rings? Or, I don't know. You know, like, guess what? They're all fucking amazing. They're all incredible basketball players.
For sure, amazing.
Incredible. Yeah. I mean, Maya Moore left the game like at her peak, and she might have been the. You know what I mean? Like it's
people. The average person definitely doesn't understand this, but I ran a spring league one time, and our high school team was in it, and we had a lot of other high school teams in it, and one team wanted to bring an 8th grade girl, and I don't care. I knew she wasn't. The coach was good. I knew she couldn't be terrible. But these were good varsity players. A number of guys who went to college. She was in 8th grade. This was juniors and seniors, and she was fine. Like she wasn't great, but she wasn't bad. She ended up being a McDonald's All-American, went to Tennessee, won a national title at Pat Ed Summit. Like she could really play. The fact that no 8th grade boys, except for very few, could even be on that court and not just suck. And she was fine. At 8th grade, that's when I realized, okay, Dominique Redding, you got to watch this girl. She was an incredible player. Yeah, amazing.
Wait, one more thing that started in 9x90 that I wanted to circle back to. Your interesting Kevin Garnett, Glenn Taylor point, Jarod. It reminded me a little bit of, okay, so what he's saying is, somewhere in the media was the idea that Kevin Garnett's trying to buy Timberwolves, right? That's a name that fans would notice and remember, right? And then Glenn Taylor saying it was never in the paperwork. I think it's probably both people are right? Because the way celebrities usually get into these groups is with no cash at the last minute with a bit of paperwork, right? It's not the case that Will Smith pulled together a bunch of billionaire friends to purchase the Philadelphia 76ers. It's not the case that Justin Timberlake organized the Grizzlies purchase, right? It's not the case that Grant Hill organized, and on, right? Like what happens is people with the big checks have their meetings, they put together the thing, and then they need to sell it to us. So they slap in a Timberlake, right? That's how that goes. So, and I think I'm right in saying, check me on this. This is a story I've always meant to do, but I'm pretty sure there was a press conference where Shaquille O'Neal was becoming an owner of the Sacramento Kings.
Correct.
And I'm pretty sure that he never was. They never actually did the paperwork. Like, so you can actually get all the way to the deal is done and we have him on the podium and he's not a fucking owner, right? Like that's so the idea like that Glenn Taylor's like, oh, I never saw his name. It's like, you wouldn't, right? You wouldn't, like, because he would have been someone who they would have given some equity to have his name on it so that fans would say that he bought the Timberwolves, when in fact it would be somebody who didn't want TrueHoop to write about them.
The next dirty money coming into the NBA. Who's it gonna be?
It is taking forever to sell Timberwolves though. Like honestly, like what is going on?
I don't think it doesn't seem like a high price. I mean, 1.5 billion. I mean, maybe that is for them. I don't know. It seems decent.
I like in the little whisper network around these people who buy and sell teams, like Timberwolves have been like on the block basically the entire time I've been covering the NBA.
For a long time, yeah.
Right.
What the hell?
Because what did the Jazz go for? 1.2, 1.3?
That seems an awfully lot like a quiz, Jarod.
Ask Devin.
Either way, like it whatever the Bensons, not the Bensons, the Millers. I mean, they made their money back times a gajillion on that deal. So I mean, I can't imagine the Timberwolves would go for that much. It should be around the same dollar amount, somewhere in that range, I would guess, based on market size and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I don't know, do they own the whatever it is, the State Farm, the Target Center, whatever it's called in Minneapolis?
Maybe.
Henry, you're supposed to know these things.
I think they do.
1.6 million. Thank you, Greg, for the.
How do we go from talking about all-star players to the Timberwolves?
It just happens. It just happens. Yeah.
I have no all-stars.
I have one last topic I'd love to cover, which is back when James Harden was a Rocket, we published a story where this like a source who has worked at the Rockets told me that like now after the various executives have left and Westbrook was out and there was like rumblings, they were, I think, something like 6th or 7th Vegas odds to win the championship. And this guy says they might end up as the worst team in the league. And, then they won a few games and Christian Wood's fantastic. And they still might be good, to be honest. But I was like, a lot of people were like, this is the dumbest insight ever in the subhead there. And like, they're actually, I think we just saw during the course of the show, 3rd or 4th worst record in the league.
I had him going.
When he said that was not about roster construction, by the way. It was really just like one of the examples in that same conversation was that PJ Tucker is going to be emotionally checked out, as will other players who just won't believe in the new regime because of stuff that's already happened, right? And that's what that article is about. Is like the trust is broken, and I don't think anyone can argue that PJ Tucker's had his best year, right? Like, and so I think this is a little bit of where we are, right? I think that was a little bit prescient. It wasn't a comment he made casually. I think it's whether they're the worst team or not, they definitely have sunk this further than anyone could have imagined. Mostly because Christian was hurt, but there you go.
And they Raphael Stone offered Oladipo an extension, and he was like, nah. And I was like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, I had him going 9. I just looked it up. I had him going 9-28. I don't know what they are. I'm sure they're not bad, but I thought they were going to be terrible. They still had Harden when I did my thing.
Yeah.
I also had OKC only winning 5 games. That was a big miss. They won again last night.
You do
it. Tom's article suggests that the Heat have various young players that we could name, and really big contracts like Myers Leonard that could be traded for like a John Wall. What do you think? Would you, if you ran? Oh, David made up.
David's like, oh no.
Could also work for Kyle Lowry, but what do you think? If you are the Heat? Do they stand pat, David? They've had a lot of injuries, a lot of COVID protocol, but but they're not doing very well so far.
They're playing much better now. I wouldn't do a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the record last 10 games. It might be like 8-2, 7-3. They're doing much better.
Yeah,
they're on a run. Yeah, I would. They have a move to make. I'm not sure what it is. You mentioned Lowry, Henry. You know who? I mean, a lot of people. There's all the scuttlebutt about Lowry to Philly, and I think fine. I don't know that he instantly makes them okay. Now at the East, I feel like I like Philly. Who I'd love Kyle to go to would be the Clippers, but they need a point guard badly. So if he goes there, then I'm like, ooh, look at the Clippers. Now you don't got to worry about Paul George and Kawhi initiating everything all the time. Kyle can do it now.
David is doing a good job biting his tongue. But
no, I like what Jarod's saying. For sure, I like what he's saying, Jarod. But I'll be writing about something. I've written about something. We'll publish it during the break regarding their current roster. You're exactly right. They don't have a real point guard. Patrick Beverly is 6th on the team in assists. And doesn't even guard point guards anymore. He guards everybody.
He's a tiny power forward.
Exactly. Yeah, Lowry on the Clippers. Yeah, I get it. For sure, I get it. They'll have to make some moves to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if they have enough to get. I don't know what they have to give up to get him, or probably not enough. I'd imagine. Oh, the other thing, Henry, that was in Tom's article, Masai not having his contract extension.
Big deal.
What does that mean? Is he long for Toronto, or is there something else going on?
The man drives a hard bargain. You have to open your wallet to have Masai run your team. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's going to play that out. He's going to play that out for sure.
Yeah. So he's in his contract year. I guess the idea is that you might think it would go the other way, but the idea is that if he's staying, then they'll make a bunch of trades, get all, they'll blow it up, start over. But if he's going, then maybe he doesn't care enough. Or I don't know. It wouldn't bother.
Yeah, they're not going to start over, right? They've got a lot of good young players. They'll just won't stay with guys like Kyle Lowry. Valanciunas may not be around. They've had a disastrous season with COVID stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the coaching staff's been out for the last 10 games.
Yeah, that's part of the deal. Yeah.
But they're not as young as they used to be.
No,
like it's funny.
no.
Like
Pascal's 27.
Yeah.
Who else?
Van Vliet's 27.
Van Vliet's 27. Yeah.
They just signed him.
Like those are the two guys where it's like, are you going to stick with the? Are you going to keep your future picks with guys who are now 27? Like, probably not. Oh, and that's our cue. It's time. Thank you, Jarod. Thank you, David. Thank
Be
you.
safe,
David.
everyone.
Good weekend, guys.
All right.